Let's try that again. Okay, for day 2 of the ellipse, we're going to be working backwards. We're going to get the information and write it into standard form. All right? So let's start with number 1. Number 1 says that the major axis endpoint is at 10, 2, and the 2 foci are located at 6, 2, and negative 4, 2. All right? The easiest way, I think, to approach these problems is to start off by plotting what you know on a grid. We're not going to be fully graphing, but it helps us to organize our information. All right? So I'm going to plot a little grid here. And I'm told that I have a major axis endpoint at 10, 2. What is another way of thinking of a major axis endpoint? A vertex. Good. So there's a vertex. And then I have foci at 6, 2. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And negative 4, 2. Okay, so let's talk about what we know first. First thing I want to decide is this a horizontal ellipse or a vertical ellipse? Horizontal. How'd you know? The vertex and the foci are all going horizontally. So this is a horizontal ellipse. Ideas for where your center is going to be. Corey? Good. It's going to be in the middle of our 2 foci. Our foci have to be the same distance away from our center. So what would the midpoint between these 2 points be? 1, 2. So our center is at 1, 2. I'm going to go ahead and plot that. There's my center. All right? Let's start writing out, now that we have our center, I want to start writing out our equation that we know. All right? So I know I'm going to have x, what? Minus 1 squared. What sign? Plus, good. Then what? Y minus 2 squared. And what is it going to have to be equal to? 1. And these are both over something. You do. You could go ahead and plot that. That would be good. The other major axis endpoint. All right. What goes under here? A and B? A squared and B squared. Okay? Do we know either A or B? We know A. How do we know A? Good. We know the distance between the center and the vertex. That's got to be A. So how far is the center to the vertex? 9. So that means what A squared is, what? 81. Is that going to go under my x's or under my y's? X's. Why? Because it's horizontal. Good. Okay. What do I need to find now? B. I have to find B or B squared. Ideas. Okay, you're on the right track, but your wording's a little off. So I'm not sure what you mean by midpoint and stuff. Carly?
You find the distance from the center
Good. What is the distance from the center to the foci? 5. And what is that value represent? C. So we know C and we know A. And what was the equation we could use? C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So 25 equals 81 minus B squared. So what must B squared be? What is it? 56. Do I care what the square root of that is? No, because what do I need to plug into the equation? B squared. So I can go ahead and put that in my equation. So I think it's easier going in this direction, right? It's a little bit easier plugging that in. You have to have a good understanding of what each part of the equation is, how they all relate to each other in order to be successful in this. All right? You got to remember, if you have any two, A, B, or C, you can always find the other using this equation. This equation is very, very helpful for us. All right, let's try another one. A center at 0, -3. A co-vertices at 0, -2, and 0, -4. And it passes through the point 2, -3. What does passes through a point mean? It's on the ellipse. Good. It actually lies on the ellipse. Okay? It's a point that satisfies your equation. So, like I said, it's always good to go ahead and start off by plotting these. So, 0, -3. Done?
Do you always have to have a center? Do you always have to, do you need the center to do this?
Well, like on the last question, we weren't given the center. We had to come up with it.
Oh, yeah.
You always are going to have to either be given it or find it because you need it for your equation. Okay? So my center is at 0, -3. And I have co-vertices at 0, -2 and 0, -4. And it passes through the point 2, -3. Okay. Can we start writing the shell or the skeleton of our equation? Yeah. So how's it going to start? X squared. How'd you know it was x squared? You're right. Because it would be x minus 0. Okay, that's the x value of your center. Okay, so x squared over something. Then what? Wait, what goes right here? Plus. And then what? Y plus 3 squared over something, and that's going to equal 1. Can we fill any of this in already? Yeah, the b squared. What is b? B is going to be 1 because we know that this distance is 1. So b equals 1, which means b squared equals 1. And where is that going to go? Under the y's, because we counted up 1 and down 1. So it's got to be under the y's. Okay? Now that point that it passes through, that 2, -3, what do you think must be true about that point? It's got to be a vertex. How do you know? Yeah, it's on the same y value, the same line, if you will, the same axis as our center. Okay? So that's actually a really nice point they gave us. They gave us a vertex, which means do we know what A is? A is 2, so A squared is 4. All right, so that was really nice that they gave us a point on the vertex. It's not always going to be that nice. What if we were given a point that was not a vertex? How could we use that? Yeah, you would plug it into the shell of the equation you already had, right? I could have said, I could have plugged in, we know my x value is 2, right? I could have plugged in 2 squared over, did I know a squared? No, so I could have just wrote a squared here. Plus, what was y? Negative 3 plus 3 squared over 1 equals 1. And I could have solved this algebraically for a squared. Now, we did this the best way here, recognizing that it was a vertex. But it's not always going to be a vertex. So on your homework, you might need to plug in and solve for your missing value. Does that make sense? Okay. I'll answer a quick question, but you might need to watch the video so you understand this fully.
I'm just wondering how you know it's equal to 1.
That yellow formula chart I gave you is your formulas. Okay. All right, let's do one more. This ellipse is tangent to the x-axis. The major axis is 10 units long. And the foci are located at negative 2, 2 and negative 2, 8. Okay, let's go ahead and plot what we know. I don't know. So negative 2, 2 is a foci, or a focus, and negative 2, 8 is another focus. How does this help us? You actually know the whole center. Because where's the center have to be? At the midpoint between the two foci. So what would your center have to be? Negative 2, 5. So our center is negative 2, 5. All right. Let's look at the other piece of information we're given. We're told it's tangent to the x-axis. What does that mean? It touches the x-axis and kind of bounces back off. So it's going to have to look something like this right here. But what does that mean that this point also has to be? The vertex. It's also got to be a vertex. Okay, well, let's think about it. It tells us our major axis is 10 units long. Does that make sense here? Yeah, because how many units away is my center? 5. So the tangent to the x-axis and the major axis being 10 units long both happen to tell us the same thing in this case. But you want to think about every piece of information you're given to help clear it up. Okay? So that tells us that this is a vertex. We have another vertex up here. What does that tell us about my A value? A equals 5. Do we know B? No, but can we find it? All right. What is C? What's C? 3. So C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So 9 equals 25 minus B squared. So what does B squared equal? 16. So let's write our equation. You tell me what's right. X plus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared. That all equals 1. Good. X plus 2 is over 25 and over 16. Is that right? Yeah, what kind of ellipse is this? No, this is vertical. And yeah, which equation did we write? That's a horizontal. So this is where it can get kind of tricky. We got to remember where we want to put our A value. Where does our A value have to go? Under the y's. So A squared has to be 25 over here, and this has to be 16 over here. Okay? That's a mistake. It's good to make now so you catch it. Okay? Because it's easy to make. Questions? All right. That's all I got for you. You already have your homework. It is the back of last night's homework. Okay? I will tell you that number 7 is meant to be very challenging. Okay? It is probably a bonus level type question. I do expect you to try it, to work together to try and get it. Okay? Don't freak out if you don't, though. I'll show you tomorrow. Okay?